The Tenant by Na Ngulube. Sadly, this poem is about lost love. It's about losing someone you love. But fortunately, it's really simple and easy to understand. I hope that you understand it because it's simple and not because you've lost love and you identify with the feelings in this poem. Before we look at the poem itself, let's just look at this idea of a tenant. The title obviously is important because that's what the poem is called, and that's what the predominant metaphor is. So think about a tenant. A tenant is somebody that lets or rents out some space, some physical space. They either rent your house or a room in your house. And what that implies, what the connotations of that are, is that the person doesn't own that space. They are coming into your space and they're taking up some of your space. And when they leave, they move out of your space. And the second connotation, the other important aspect of this, is that when they do come into your space, they're doing so temporarily. They're not going to be there for a long time. They come in, they could move out again. And when they do move out, then your space becomes your own again. But what the poem suggests is that it's not as simple as that. So when the person does leave, they don't just leave and disappear and suddenly your space is empty and pure again as if they were never there. They leave something behind. Their memories or your memories of them continue to take up space. In this poem, the memories are represented by the idea of luggage because the poem takes the metaphorical and it creates something physical out of it. And that's what is being suggested here, is that even once they're gone, you can't get rid of the memories. You can't just wipe them clean and leave that space the way that it was before. Once they've come into your space, once the tenant has been there, once the person that you love has been there, they'll always have left something behind and the space won't be the same again. If you've watched the film, this might sound familiar because this is almost exactly the same thing that is represented in the film Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, which deals with this idea of being able to, through some technology, actually go into your head and wipe out memories that you don't want. Now, this is an age-old theme. The idea that when you've been hurt by somebody, if only you could just go into your head and just take away the memories that are causing the pain, then you wouldn't be in pain anymore. But it also talks about the idea that what would happen if you did take away all those memories, the idea that you lose part of the good with the bad. In the beginning, certainly you would want to lose absolutely everything, but as time goes on, you start to hold on to some of those memories. And this poem in particular talks about how that holding on can affect you permanently. If you haven't yet watched the movie, I would strongly recommend that you do. It's a great film and it's applicable to everybody at some point in their life. And fortuitously, it deals with exactly the same things that this poem is talking about. There is no room for you in my heart. The only tenant who ever lived there left some luggage behind. I didn't evict her. She simply left without a word. I keep hoping she will come back and collect the luggage, or at least arrange for disposal, clean out the place, throw out old memories. I could possibly live with the marks on the walls. Some are completely indelible. Some I even like. But you see, I am afraid that if it all goes, what will I do with all that empty space? Okay, so as I said, it's some quite simple concepts here. The phrase room in my heart is just an idiomatic expression that relates to the capacity to love. So when you say you have room in your heart for someone, what you're actually meaning is that you have the capacity to love them. Of course, the converse also applies. If you have no room in your heart, then that would mean that you are not able to love the person. This poem is addressed almost to the reader. The poet is saying, I've got no room for you. So it makes you, it involves you in the poem. It becomes personal. The poet says, I wish I could love you. I want to love you, but I can't. And the reason that she can't is because she doesn't have the space. Here we see the idea, and you're going to see this extended metaphor echoed throughout the poem, that there is a link between physical space and emotional space. The speaker says that she's actually only loved one other person, the only tenant who ever lived here. So the only person that has taken up space in her heart has left and has now left some luggage behind. And she implies that that is why she can't love you, because that other person is still taking up that space, and therefore she doesn't have any space for you because there's too much of that other person that's been left behind. In the second little paragraph or stanza, we get more of an idea of why she's having such difficulty clearing the space. Because she says, I didn't even evict him. The even here almost suggests a tone of incredulousness. I didn't even evict him. I didn't even break up with him. It wasn't even me. You can see here that what she's suggesting by this is that, or what we can learn from this is that it was not, she didn't break up with him or her. Let's not get gender specific here. She is not the one that did the breaking up. It wasn't her choice. And that might be one of the reasons why she's still in pain. Notice that she uses the word evict. That links in nicely with that whole idea of tenant, because evict is what you do with a tenant. It's not, she doesn't say I didn't break up with him. That would be, just like the emotional side of things. She talks about evicting, which is the word used to remove a tenant from a property. And she's suggesting that she didn't remove him, he removed himself. And he removed himself very easily, apparently, because he just left. He simply left without a word. It wasn't difficult for him. It was simple. And he didn't give her any explanation, which is obviously one of the other reasons why she's still in pain. She doesn't have any closure. She doesn't know why he left. So she didn't break up with him, and he didn't tell her why he left. And that's why she's sitting with all of these unresolved feelings, which are represented by the idea of luggage. This stanza is poignant and sad in a way, because this is the one that relates to this idea of getting rid of these memories. She wishes that he would come and collect the luggage or arrange for its disposal or clean out the place or throw out the old memories. Look at that. There are 4 phrases there. Collect the luggage, arrange for disposal, clean out, throw out old memories. All of those things indicate the removing of these aspects of this person from her space. And all of that basically points to one thing, which is just like, I wish I could forget. But the word hoping seems to have 2 possible meanings. So on the one hand, this person hopes that whoever broke up with them will come back, and maybe if they come back, the relationship will continue. Or do they just hope that the person will come and collect the luggage? Now, that could mean anything. Collect the luggage could mean explain why you left, and then I'll have some closure. If you look at the options here, collect the luggage or arrange for disposal, the arranging for disposal almost seems to suggest that the person who's coming to collect the luggage doesn't even want it. Well, obviously they don't want it. They've left it there, so they don't care. Even if they just threw it away, it would be better than it cluttering up this person's space. Like arrange for disposal would just mean chuck it out. But she can't chuck it out. She's waiting for the other person to come and throw it out. Now, here's a little bit of a shift, okay? So this might seem simple, but let's look at it a little bit closely. She says, I could live with the marks on the walls. Now, think about the wall for a second, okay? Luggage is one thing. Luggage takes up space in the person's place. But the walls of the room are the room itself, aren't they? They're not the same as the space inside the room. The walls are a part of the room. That indicates that if there are marks on the walls, she has been changed permanently. That the presence of the person in her space has fundamentally altered the space itself, the room itself. She suggests here that she could maybe live with some of these marks. And you can see here, she says there's some I even like. They're not going to go away. Indelible means that they cannot be removed. They're incapable of being erased. That's what indelible means. And she seems to have reconciled herself to the fact, because she says, well, some of them I even like. So, I could kind of live with them. I could kind of live with them staying there. And some of those memories are actually pleasant memories. So do you see here that in this portion, She's talking about the fact that even though parts of her have been irreparably changed, she seems to have reconciled herself to that change. It's not quite the same thing as the luggage, which she wishes she could get rid of. And then we come to the crux. But you see, I am afraid that if it all goes, if the luggage goes, if the marks go, what will I do with all that empty space? Now, the idea of like doing something with the empty space, that's part of the whole extended metaphor. If you move into a new house or a new place, what do you do with all the empty space? You fill it up, right? You decorate it, people move in. It implies that you have those options, you've got those possibilities. What would she do with the empty space? Well, she could love somebody else. She could bring somebody else into that empty space. But the fact that she doesn't even ask a question here seems to suggest that she's actually resolved to not have that space anymore. Look at that verse. It should actually end with a question mark. The phrase, what will I do with all that empty space, is a question. It should have a question mark, but it's got a full stop there. What's the difference between a question mark and a full stop? Question marks leave things open, but full stops are final. If she said, what would I do with all that empty space, it would kind of leave the door open, metaphorically and literally, to another person to come into that space. But the full stop almost closes that door. It's almost as if she's decided she's not going to have empty space ever again. She's going to hold on to that luggage forever. So what we see here is that even though the poet has been hurt, and even though she wants the person who broke her heart to come and fix it, even though she wants that person to come and remove the luggage, she is reluctant to allow that to happen because she's afraid of what she will do in that case. Sometimes we hold on to bad memories because having bad memories is almost better than having no memories at all. But if we hold on to it, then what happens? We close the door to other people coming into our space. So ultimately, what this poem is about is the impact of our memories on our future. When we let somebody into our space, we make ourselves vulnerable. We allow them into this idea of space, but then something happens while they're there. And if they leave too much of themselves, that has an impact on us in the future. Those memories of being hurt, the luggage that they leave behind in our space, actually teaches us to be afraid of the consequences of our future actions. Once you've been hurt, you're a lot more reluctant to allow somebody into your space again. And sometimes we don't even know how to change that. So in this case, even though the speaker says, I've got no room for you, even though she seems to be addressing some person who she could potentially love, she ends by saying, I'm afraid of what to do with that empty space. So she kind of opens the door crack to say, this is the reason why I can't love you. And then she just closes it at the end when she says, I can't because I'm afraid of the empty space. She doesn't even suggest that she would let you into that empty space. That is a way of representing this idea that if you are unable to let go of the hurt, if you keep that person's luggage there, if you get used to all of the marks on the walls, nobody else ever gets to come into that space again. Holding on to what has hurt us prevents us from moving forward.